Hey guys, tonight we are going to try something different. We're going on a trip, not to a place, but to a circumstance. Imagine for a moment everything that makes your life comfortable: your soft bed, the roof over your head, the fact that your next meal is probably waiting in the fridge. Now, what if all of that was stripped away in an instant, replaced by cold, damp stone and the gnawing uncertainty of where to find your next sip of water? That's our journey tonight. We're stepping into the velvet slippers of a high-born medieval noblewoman who is about to have the worst day of her life, followed by an even worse week. Let's be honest, with your current skill set, and I'm including myself here, you'd probably not make it through the first night. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. While you're at it, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I love seeing how this little community of ours spans the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice when you wake is not the light, but the weight. It's the weight of the embroidered damask blanket, heavy and reassuring against your body. The air in your chamber is cool, but it carries the faint, comforting scent of lavender and dried herbs, which your lady-in-waiting, Elara, places in small linen pouches around the room. Sunlight filters through a high, narrow window, a single pane of greenish, imperfect glass, and obscene luxury painting a distorted rectangle of light on the stone floor. This is your world, soft, scented, and predictable. Elara is already moving silently by your bedside, a basin of rose-scented water in her hands. "My lady," she whispers, her voice a familiar morning murmur. Your routine begins. You don't leap out of bed, you sit, allowing Elara to help you into a silk dressing gown before you even think about the day. Your actual clothes are a complicated affair, a fortress of fabric. First, a fine linen chemise, your innermost layer, which is changed daily. Over that goes the kirtler, a fitted gown of deep blue wool. And finally, the surcoat, an elegant sleeveless overdress of velvet, the color of burgundy wine, trimmed with fur from an animal you've never seen. Getting dressed is a slow, deliberate process, a daily reminder of your status. You don't dress yourself, you are dressed. Later, at the midday meal, you sit at your father's right hand, the Duke, a man whose face seems permanently etched with the concerns of his lands, his alliances, and, most pressingly, his rivals. The great hall buzzes with the low hum of courtiers and servants. You eat with a silver spoon and a personal knife, wiping your fingers on a linen napkin. The food is a spectacle. Today, there's a roasted peacock, its feathers reattached after cooking to create a magnificent, if slightly macabre, centerpiece. Historians call these elaborate edible displays subtleties, and they were as much about showing off wealth as they were about sustenance. A castle spun from pure sugar sits beside it, a testament to the fact that your father can afford to turn a precious commodity into a temporary decoration. You read, of course. In a quiet corner of the solar, you have a small collection of hand-copied books, poetry, a few romantic tales, and a book of hours with beautifully illuminated margins. Historians, of course, are still debating just how common literacy was for women of your station, even the highest born. Was it a practical tool, or merely another ornament, like your embroidery skills for you? It's an escape, a way to travel beyond the castle walls without ever setting foot in the mud of the real world. But lately, the air in the castle has changed. It's subtle, like a shift in the wind before a storm. You catch snippets of conversations that halt the moment you enter a room. Servants avert their eyes more quickly than usual. Your father has been spending long nights in his study with grim-faced men, maps spread out under candlelight. The whispers have started. They slither through the corridors, coiling in the shadows. They speak of your cousin, Lord Valerie, a man with a charming smile and an ambition as sharp and cold as a dagger. He believes your father's title, and thus your inheritance, should be his. Tonight, the storm breaks. There is no warning, no formal announcement, just the splintering crash of your chamber door being thrown open. It's massive and unfamiliar. Fill the doorway. Their leather armor creaks, smelling of sweat and metal, a stench that doesn't belong in your scented room. Behind them stands Valerie's. She is not smiling now. He holds up a parchment scroll, the seal of the king dangling from it like a drop of blood. By order of His Majesty the King, Valerie's voice is clear and triumphant, cutting through your sleepy confusion. You are accused of conspiring against the crown, of practicing dark arts to usurp the rightful line of succession. The words are nonsense, a script from a poorly written play. You look for your father, but he's not there. You call for Ilara, but she is nowhere to be seen. One of the guards steps forward, his rough hand grabbing your arm. The feel of his calloused, dirty fingers on your bare skin is a shock, more violent than a slap. You are pulled from your bed, from the warmth and the weight of your blankets, and dragged across the cold stone floor in nothing but your thin linen chemise. The world of silk and whispers has just ended. Your bare feet slap against the cold stone, a sound you've never heard before. You've always been shod in soft leather slippers. The guards flanking you aren't gentle. They haul you forward, your arms pinned, your thin chemise offering no protection against the chill of the castle's deep-set stones. You pass tapestries depicting heroic ancestors in glorious battles, their woven faces seeming to mock your silent and dignified procession. You catch a glimpse of a kitchen boy peering from a doorway, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe before he's yanked back by an unseen hand. They are all watching. Your humiliation is the castle's new spectacle. They don't take you to the dungeons. That you might have expected. Instead, they drag you to a small windowless storeroom near the gatehouse. The air is thick with the smell of old leather and damp wool. Valerie's is there, leaning against a barrel, looking supremely satisfied. He gestures to a heap of rough, dun-colored cloth on the floor. A parting gift, he says, his voice dripping with condescension. You can't go about in your finery. The law is quite specific. HES referring to the Sumptuary laws, a set of rules you once thought of as a mere curiosity. These were regulations that dictated who could wear what, which fabrics, colors, and furs were reserved for which social class. Purple silk for royalty, fine wool for merchants, and for peasants, well, for peasants, there was this, a tunic and leggings of coarse, undyed wool, known as russet. It wasn't just about appearances, it was a legally enforced hierarchy. By stripping you of your silks, he was officially, legally, erasing your identity. This is a small, cold detail, a piece of bureaucratic cruelty that stings more than any physical blow. One of the guards shoves the bundle of scratchy fabric into your hands. He turns his back, a gesture that is somehow more insulting than if he had stared. With numb, clumsy fingers, you pull the rough tunic over your head. The fabric scrapes against your skin, itchy and foreign. It smells of sheep and something vaguely sour. You shed your fine linen chemise, the last remnant of your old life, letting it fall into a pathetic puddle on the dirty floor. You feel a new kind of cold, one that seeps into your bones. It's the cold of anonymity, of being nothing. You're pushed out into the pre-on chill of the Bailey. The air is sharp, carrying the scent of wood smoke and damp earth. There's a cart waiting. Not a carriage with padded seats and a roof, but a simple-to-wield farmer's cart, the kind used to haul turnips or firewood. It's hitched to a single, sad-looking donkey. The guards lift you onto the rough wooden planks with no ceremony. A small sack is tossed in beside you. It lands with a dull thud. Your provisions, you suppose. The heavy oak gates of the castle, the only home you've ever known, grown open. The cart lurches forward, and the sound of the gates booming shut behind you is a sound of absolute finality. You're out. For the first time in your life, you are truly outside the castle walls without a retinue, without a destination, without a purpose other than to be gone. The journey is agony. Medieval roads, as you are now intimately discovering, are not roads at all. They are suggestions, ruts carved deep into the mud by countless other wheels, hardened by a recent dry spell into bone-jarring ridges. Every jolt travels directly up your spine. You try to brace yourself with your hands, but the splintery wood of the cart bed offers little purchase. You are cargo, because at least a barrel of wine would be secured with rope. As the sky slowly lightens from charcoal to a bruised purple, your mind, numb with shock, begins to whirl. You try to understand the logic behind this. Why the performance, why the public escort to the gate, the legally prescribed peasants' clothing. Historians will one day argue about the purpose of these ritualistic degradations. Was it purely a power play, a warning to Valerie's other rivals that he could topple even the highest born, or was it rooted in a deeper societal need for justice? However warped to be seen, a belief that a change in status had to be accompanied by a public and physical transformation. Right now, all you know is that it feels like a meticulously crafted nightmare designed to unmake you piece by piece. The guards on either side of the cart haven't spoken a single word to you. Their silence is a wall, thick and impenetrable. You are utterly, terrifyingly alone, even with them just a few feet away. The world is no longer soft and scented, it is a jarring, relentless force, and you are being carried deeper into its unforgiving heart. The journey feels endless, a monotonous rhythm of jolts and creaks that grinds down your spirit. You lose track of time. The sun climbs high, beating down on your uncovered head, and then begins its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink colors you once admired from a high window, but which now only signal the approach of another unknown. The night. They stop only once to water the donkey and to eat. A guard breaks off a piece of hard, dark bread and a chunk of waxy cheese, handing them to you without a word. You eat mechanically, not because some primal instinct tells you that you must. The bread is gritty and scrapes the roof of your mouth. The cheese is salty and strong. It's peasant food, fuel for a body, not a pleasure for the palate. Finally, as twilight bleeds the color from the landscape, the cart rattles to a halt. The air here feels different. Thinner, sharper. It smells of pine needles and damp stone. The guards dismount, their boots crunching on loose gravel. One of them grabs your arm and pulls you from the cart. Your legs, stiff and unused to such hardship, almost buckle beneath you. You stand unsteadily, taking in your new surroundings. You are at the edge of a dense, dark forest, the kind that features in frightening folk tales told by nursemaids. The trees are a wall of blackness, their branches clawing at the fading sky. And there, at the base of a craggy, moss-covered cliff face, is a dark maw. A hole in the earth. It's not grand or mysterious. It's just a raw, primitive opening in the rock, more like an animal's den than a place for a human. A few scraggly bushes cling to the rock around it, their leaves rustling in the evening breeze. This, you realize with a fresh wave of cold dread, is it. This is your destination, your place of exile. The guard who leads you here gives you a final, firm shove toward the opening. Your new estate, my lady, he says, and for the first time, his voice holds a note of something other than difference. It's a sneer, sharp and cruel. He unceremoniously dumps the small sack from the cart onto the ground at your feet. It lands with the same dull thud as before. Then, without another word, he and his companion climb back onto the cart. The weary donkey is prodded into motion, and the cart begins to lumber back the way it came. The rhythmic creak of its wheels is the only sound in the unnerving stillness. You stand frozen, watching it go, a tiny, insignificant figure against the vast, darkening wilderness. You watch until the sound fades completely, swallowed by the forest, and then there is only silence. A silence so profound it feels like a physical presence. You are alone, truly and completely alone. The shock that has been your shield for the past day begins to crack, and the first tendrils of robinic curl in your stomach. You look from the impenetrable forest to the dark, gaping mouth of the cave. The choice is between the unknown terrors of the woods and the claustrophobic dread of the dark hole. At least the cave offers the illusion of shelter. Hesitantly, you pick up the sack. It's surprisingly light. You take a few shuffling steps toward the cave, your eyes trying to pierce the gloom within. The entrance is low, you have to stoop to enter. The air that flows out is cold and smells of damp earth, of things that have never seen the sun. It's a primal, ancient smell. Historians often discuss cave dwellings in the context of prehistoric humanity, but they sometimes overlook a strange, niche use for them in the medieval period. While most people lived in houses of wood, wattle and daub or stone, caves were sometimes used as shelters for the truly destitute hermits, outcasts, or those fleeing the law. It was the ultimate symbol of being cast out from society, a return to a pre-civilized state. Valeries hadn't just banished you, he had deliberately chosen a punishment that would strip you of your very humanity in the eyes of the world. He had sent you back to the beginning of time. You force your legs to move, one step at a time. The ground inside is uneven, littered with small, sharp stones that press into the thin soles of your new, ill-fitting leather shoes. You take a few steps in, and the last of the twilight is snuffed out. You are plunged into absolute, terrifying darkness. The cave is not your new home. It's your tomb. The darkness inside the cave is a living thing. It's total and oppressive, a thick, velvety blackness that presses in on you from all sides. You've experienced darkness before, of course, a snuff candle in your bedchamber, the brief moment between closing your eyes and sleep. But that was a safe, temporary darkness, a comforting absence of light. This is different. This is a primordial void. It erases the world. You freeze just a few steps inside the entrance, your heart hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. Every rational thought has fled, replaced by a pure, animalistic fear. You strain your ears, trying to catch a sound, any sound. That isn't the frantic drumming of your own blood. The silence you noticed outside was nothing compared to this. Here, the silence is so deep it has a sound of its own, a low, resonant hum that seems to vibrate in the very bones of your skull. Your first instinct is to bolt, to scramble back to the entrance, to the fading grey light that represents the known world, but the thought of the vast, dark forest outside is just as terrifying. At least in here you are contained. You are hidden. Or are you? A new thought, sharp and cold, pierces your panic. What if you're not alone in here? Your imagination, once fed by romantic poetry and heroic tales, now conjures a bestiary of horrors. Giant spiders scuttling in the cracks. A sleeping bear, its slow, heavy breaths indistinguishable from the cave's low hum. Or worse, something human. Another outcast, one who has been here for years, driven mad by solitude. You hold your breath, listening so hard your ears ache. Nothing. No breathing. Just the unnerving hum. You take a shuffling step backward, your hand outstretched, searching for the solid, reassuring wall of the cave. Your fingers brush against cold, slick stone. It's covered in a thin layer of damp, slimy film, some kind of moss or algae. You snatch your hand back with a gasp, wiping your fingers furiously on your coarse tunic. The cold is beginning to seep into you. It's a damp, penetrating cold that the thin wool of your new clothes does nothing to repel. Your body starts to shiver, first a fine tremor, then a series of uncontrollable spasms. You wrap your arms around yourself, a futile gesture that offers no warmth. You sink to the ground, your back pressed against the slimy wall, huddling into the smallest possible shape. The floor is uneven and damp, sharp pebbles digging into you. Comfort is a forgotten language. You are a bundle of shivering misery, lost in a world without sight or sound. Suddenly a noise. A tiny, skittering sound from deeper in the cave. It's followed by a high-pitched squeak. Rats. Or mice. Your stomach clenches. In the castle, a mouse in the buttery was a nuisance, a job for the castle cat. Here, in the pitch black, the sound of this small, unseen creature is a monstrous intrusion. It's a reminder that this space is not yours. You are the invader. And then comes the chorus. From the forest outside, a lone wolf lets out a long, mournful howl. It's answered by another, and then another, a chilling symphony that seems to echo right through the rock you're leaning against. You've heard wolves before, but from the safety of high stone walls. Their calls were a distant, almost romantic part of the night. Here, they are a direct and personal threat. Tears begin to well in your eyes, not the delicate, self-pitying tears you might have shed in your old life over a sad poem. These are hot, ragged tears of pure terror and despair. They stream down your dirty face, mixing with the grime. You cry silently, your shoulders shaking, too afraid to even make a sound that might attract more unwanted attention. This is your first night, the beginning of your new life, and all you can think is that you won't survive until dawn. Historically, the psychological impact of such a sudden and total sensory deprivation is immense. People in isolation have been known to experience hallucinations, paranoia their minds creating stimuli where none exist. While medieval people didn't have the scientific language for it, they certainly understood the terror of the dark. Darkness was not just an absence of light, it was a presence. It was where demons lurked, where the known world ended and chaos began. Scholars continue to debate the extent to which these beliefs were metaphorical versus literal for the average person. But for you, huddled on the damp floor of this cave, the demons feel horrificously real. This long, terrifying night is your brutal baptism into a world you were never meant to know. The night passes in a blur of shivering, unshallow, fitful sleep. You don't so much rest as drift in and out of a state of terrified consciousness, your body clenched against the cold, your ears straining at every rustle and snap from the world outside. When the first hint of grey light finally seeps into the mouth of the cave, it feels like a physical rescue. It's the most beautiful thing you have ever seen. You crawl, stiff and aching, toward the entrance, drawn to the light like a moth. The dawn is pale and misty, the air sharp and clean. The forest that seemed so menacing last night now looks well. It still looks menacing, but at least it's a visible menace. You can see the shapes of the trees, the dew sparkling on the leaves. As the sun rises higher, a new sensation begins to eclipse the fear and the cold thirst. Your mouth is dry and gummy, your tongue feels thick and clumsy, and a dull ache is starting to form behind your eyes. In the castle, thirst was a fleeting inconvenience, instantly solved by a servant appearing with a goblet of water or watered wine. Now, it's a primal, urgent demand from your own body. You have to find water. You remember the small sack the guards left you. With a surge of desperate hope, you untie the coarse string at its top and tip the contents onto the ground. The hope vanishes as quickly as it appeared. Inside is a small, hard loaf of that same dark bread, a piece of cheese wrapped in a damp cloth, a chunk of salted meat, and a small empty leather water skin. Empty. Of course, it was empty. This wasn't an act of mercy, it was a final, calculated cruelty. They had given you food that would make you thirsty and no means to quench it. Panic, your constant companion, starts to rise again, but the thirst is a more immediate tyrant. It forces you to think. Water. Where does water come from? You picture the castle's well, the deep stone-lined shaft from which buckets would run. Useless. You picture the rain barrels in the courtyard. It isn't raining. Your mind, clumsy from disuse in any practical sense, latches onto a memory. A line from a poem about an imp in the woods, resting by a babbling brook. Brook, stream, river, water flows. It moves downhill. The cave is on a hillside. Logically, there must be water somewhere below. It's a fragile thread of reasoning, but it's all you have. You stand up, your body protesting with a chorus of aches, and look down the slope from your cave. The ground is a tangle of undergrowth, rocks, and fallen branches. It looks treacherous. You take a deep breath, the cold air stinging your lungs, and begin your first expedition. Every step is a challenge. The soft leather shoes you wear, meant for polished castle floors, have no grip. You slip on damp leaves, your ankles twisting on loose stones. Twigs and thorns snag at your tunic, tearing at the rough fabric. You move slowly, cautiously, using your hands to brace yourself against tree trunks. You are listening, not for monsters this time, but for the sound of water. The gentle murmur, the babbling the poet wrote of. After what feels like an eternity of clumsy stumbling, you hear it. A faint, almost imperceptible trickling sound. Hope surges through you, giving you a fresh burst of energy. You push through a thicket of ferns, scratching your hands and face. And then you see it. A tiny stream, no wider than your two hands, tumbling over mossy rocks. The water is crystal clear, sparkling in the dappled sunlight that filters through the canopy of trees. It's the most magnificent sight in the world. You practically fall to your knees beside it, your hands plunging into the icy water. You cup your hands and bring the water to your lips, drinking greedily. It's so cold it makes your teeth ache, but it's the most delicious thing you've ever tasted. You drink until your stomach feels full and sloshing, until the headache behind your eyes begins to subside. As you catch your breath, a new thought occurs to you. Is it safe? You remember hearing stories of sickness spreading through villages with tainted water sources. How do you know this stream isn't poisoned or fouled by a dead animal upstream? The terrifying truth is, you don't. You have no way of knowing. This is your first real survival choice. A gamble made out of sheer necessity. Historians have long noted that access to clean water was a primary factor in the location and success of settlements. Entire towns lived and died by their water source. For you, this tiny, anonymous stream has just become the center of your universe. For now, the immediate relief of your thirst outweighs the potential future risk. This is a trade-off you will have to make again and again. You have found water. You have survived your first morning. It's a small, pathetic victory, but it feels monumental. After the intense relief of quenching your thirst, the second of life's great tyrants makes its presence known: hunger. The piece of bread and cheese you ate yesterday was a distant memory, and your stomach is now a hollow, aching void. The salted meat in your sack seems like a blessing, but you know it will only make you desperately thirsty again, and you don't want to stray too far from your newfound water source. You need something else, something fresh. You look around at the forest floor, at the bewildering carpet of green. There are plants everywhere. Leaves, stems, roots, flowers. Surely, some of it must be edible. But which ones? You recall the castle kitchens, the baskets of herbs, carrots, and turnips brought in from the gardens. But those were cultivated, tamed plants. This is a chaotic, untamed wilderness. Your eyes fall on a patch of bright red berries hanging in plump clusters from a small bush. They look beautiful, like tiny jewels. They look delicious. Your hand reaches for them, your mouth already watering at the thought of their sweet, juicy taste. But then a memory surfaces, a fragment of a lesson from your tutor, a man who taught you more than just poetry. He was a learned man, interested in botany, and once, while showing you an illustration in a herbal manuscript, H.E.D. pointed to a picture of berries just like these. "Remember, my lady," he had said, his voice calm and serious, "nature often clothes her deadliest poisons in the most beautiful garments. Nightshade." He had called it nightshade. You snatch your hand back as if the berries had burned you. The close call sends a shiver of fear down your spine. Hunger might be a slow torment, but poison is a swift and final one. The forest is not a benevolent garden waiting to feed you, it's a minefield of potential dangers, and you are walking through it utterly blind. Defeated, you sit on a fallen log, your head in your hands. How can you possibly know what is safe? There are no books here, no wise tutors to guide you. The sheer hopelessness of the task is overwhelming, but the gnawing in your belly won't let you rest. It's a relentless, physical reminder that you must act. You start small. You look for plants that seem familiar, even vaguely. You spot a broad-leafed plant with a thick, white root, vaguely reminiscent of a parsnip. You dig at the earth around it with a sharp stick, your fingers getting caked with dirt. After much effort, you pull it free. It even smells a bit like one. But is it? You know of a plant called hemlock, another of your tutor's warnings, which has a similar appearance and is deadly. This is where you make your second critical survival decision. You can't afford to risk a large meal on an unknown plant. So you employ a method that humans have likely used since the dawn of time, a slow and cautious process of elimination. You break off a tiny piece of the root. First, you rub it on the skin of your wrist. You wait. There's no rash, no redness, a good sign. Next, you touch the piece to your lip. Again, you wait. No burning, no tingling, no numbness. Another hurdle cleared. Finally, with your heart pounding, you place the tiniest sliver of the root on your tongue, hold it there for a moment, and then spit it out. You wait again, for what feels like an hour, your body on high alert for any sign of sickness, any cramp in your gut. Nothing happens. Taking a deep breath, you chew and swallow a piece no bigger than your little fingernail. Now comes the longest wait of all. You sit by the stream drinking water, your mind a whirlwind of anxiety. You have committed. You have ingested the unknown. Every twinge in your stomach, every gurgle, sends a jolt of fear through you. The hours crawl by. The sun moves across the sky. And still nothing happens. You don't feel strange. You just feel hungry. The tiny piece of root wasn't enough to satisfy your hunger. But the experiment has given you something far more valuable, a piece of knowledge. A tentative yes in a world of no. This one root in this one spot is probably safe. This slow, methodical process is a far cry from the confident foraging you've read about in tales of woodcraft. The reality is tedious and terrifying. Historians and botanists still argue about how early humans first distinguished edible plants from toxic ones. Was it trial and error, a process that must have claimed countless lives, or was it knowledge passed down through generations? The cultural inheritance of survival. There's also the fascinating, though academically controversial, theory of zoofarmagontsky in the idea that humans learned by observing which plants sick animals ate to heal themselves. For you, there are no traditions to follow, no animals to observe. There is only your own cautious, desperate experimentation. You have taken your first, faltering step in learning the complex language of the wild. It hasn't filled you with a tiny, fragile spark of hope. You have a method. You have a chance. The tiny piece of root you ate did little to quell the gnawing hunger, but the knowledge that it didn't kill you is a small victory. You dig up a few more of the roots, a newfound sense of purpose steadying your hands. But, as you look at the pale, dirt-caked roots in your lap, another problem presents itself. The thought of eating them raw is unappealing, a gritty and unsatisfying prospect. What you crave, with a longing that is almost spiritual, is warmth, cooked food, fire. The word itself sounds like magic. In your old life, fire was a constant, domesticated presence. It crackled merrily in the hearths of every room. It roared in the kitchen ovens. It flickered in the lamps that lit the corridors. Fire was always there, provided and maintained by others. You have never once in your life had to create it. Now it is the most important thing in the world. A fire would mean warmth against the bone-deep chill of the nights. It would mean light to banish the terrifying darkness of the cave. It would mean cooked food, easier to digest and safer to eat. It would mean smoke to keep away the biting insects that have started to discover you. Fire is the barrier between you and the raw, untamed wilderness. It is the very symbol of civilization. How does one make fire? The question seems absurdly simple and impossibly complex. You've seen servants use a flint and steel, striking them together to create a spark that catches on a piece of tinder. But you have no flint, no steel. The gods didn't think to leave you a fire starting kit. Your mind scrambles for another way. You remember a story, a tale of a resourceful hero stranded on an island. He made fire by rubbing two sticks together. It sounded so simple in the story. You decide to try. You find two dry-looking sticks, one thicker than the other. You find a flat piece of rock to use as a base. You gather a small pile of the driest materials you can find, wispy bits of bark. Dead leaves that crumble to dust in your fingers, a small, abandoned bird's nest that feels like a ball of fluff. You kneel on the damp ground, placing the thicker stick on the rock. You take the thinner stick, place its point against the other, and begin to rub. At first, you rub it back and forth. Nothing happens except for your hands getting sore. You try spinning it between your palms, trying to mimic a motion you think you remember from an illustration. It's awkward. The stick keeps slipping. Your palms, soft and uncalloused, quickly become red and raw. You keep at it, your breath coming in ragged gasps of effort. Sweat beads on your forehead and drips into your eyes, stinging them. Your arms ache. Your back screams in protest. This is the hardest physical labor you have ever done. It feels pointless. All you're producing is a tiny bit of wood dust and a lot of frustration. Tears of pure, unadulterated frustration begin to well up. It's not the dramatic, self-pitying crying of your first night. This is the weeping of sheer exhaustion and failure. You want to scream, to throw the useless sticks into the forest. It feels like a cruel joke. The simplest, most fundamental human technology is utterly beyond your grasp. You stop, your chest heaving, and stare at your hands. They are red, blistered, and trembling. This is the reality that stories leave out. The blisters, the aching muscles, the soul-crushing futility of it all. Making fire is not a simple trick, it's a skill, honed by practice and knowledge. The method you're attempting is a variation of the hand drill, one of the most ancient and widespread methods of fire starting. What you don't know is that success depends on 100 tiny details: the right kind of wood. Some woods work, many don't, the right amount of pressure, the right speed, a notch cut into the fireboard to collect the hot dust. Without this knowledge, you are just wasting energy. Historians and archaeologists have recreated these tools and techniques, but even for experienced survivalists, it's a difficult and time-consuming process. The idea that a medieval person, even a commoner, would be an expert at this is a bit of a myth. Most would have relied on preserving embers from an existing fire, or using flint and steel. Being forced to create fire from scratch would have been a desperate, and often unsuccessful last resort. Defeated for the moment, you lean back against a tree, cradling your sore hands. The sun is beginning to dip lower in the sky, and the prospect of another long, cold, dark night is looming. The raw roots on the ground seem to mock you. You have found food, but you can't cook it. You have a shelter, but you can't warm it. You have survived, but you are not yet living. The fire remains an elusive, almost mythical prize, and the tears drying on your dirty cheeks are a testament to how far you have yet to go. The sting of failure and the ache in your hands eventually subside, replaced by a cold, clear thought. Sitting here in despair is a luxury you can no longer afford. You failed to make fire, yes, but you succeeded in finding water and a potential food source. You cannot fix everything at once. You must prioritize. And right now, the most pressing priority is understanding your new domain. The cave is your only shelter. The stream is your only water. The patch of edible roots is your only food. These are the 3 pillars of your new tiny kingdom, and they are scattered. You need to know how they relate to each other. You need a map. Not a map on parchment with ink and fine lines, of course. You need a map in your mind. A mental layout of your immediate surroundings, a web of paths and landmarks that can guide you safely and efficiently. Getting lost out here, even just a few hundred feet from your cave, could be a death sentence. You stand up and decide to embark on your first systematic exploration. You won't wander aimlessly. You will be deliberate. You start at the mouth of the cave, your new home. This is the center of your world, point zero. You look out, forcing yourself to see not just a chaotic jumble of trees, but distinct features. There's a particularly large oak tree with a lightning scowl running down its trunk. To the left, a cluster of 3 large, mossy boulders that look like sleeping sheep. These are your first landmarks. You decide to retrace your path to the stream, but this time, you pay attention. You don't just stumble downhill, you consciously mark the way. You pass the oak tree. You note a fallen log that you have to step over. You see a patch of ferns that is thicker than the others. You are not just walking, you are building a trail in your memory. When you reach the stream, you look back up the slope, trying to see the path from the other direction. It looks different from this angle. You commit this new perspective to memory as well. Next, you turn your attention to the patch of roots. It's not far from the stream, which is fortunate. You won't have to choose between food and water. You pace out the distance between the stream and the root patch, counting your steps. 23 paces. It's a small, specific piece of data, a concrete fact in a world of overwhelming uncertainty. Now for the unknown. You need to know what else is nearby. Is there a better source of food, a more sheltered cave, or a hidden danger? You decide to walk in a circle around your cave, trying to keep it in sight as much as impossible. This is a technique some historians believe ancient travelers used to avoid getting lost spiraling out from a central point. You start by walking along the base of the cliff face your cave is carved into. The rock is rough and jagged. In one direction it stretches on for as far as you can see. In the other, it eventually crumbles into a steep, scree-covered slope that looks too dangerous to climb. You've learned a boundary. This cliff is a wall, a defining feature of your territory. Then you push into the forest, moving in a slow, deliberate arc. Every few steps, you stop, look, and listen. You are becoming an observer. You notice things your noble-born eyes would have previously glazed over. The way the light filters through the leaves, creating shifting patterns on the ground. They're different types of moss, some like green velvet, others like tiny, feathery ferns. The frantic activity of an anthill. You see a flash of blue as a jay flits between branches, scolding you for your intrusion. Your world, which at first seemed like a terrifying and differentiated mass of forest, is slowly resolving into a collection of specific, identifiable places. The lightning-scarred oak, the sheep-like boulders, the stream, the root patch, the impassable scree slope. These are the first entries in your mental atlas. There's a strange, almost forgotten intellectual pleasure in this. In your old life, your mind was occupied with poetry, courtly etiquette, and the subtle politics of the Duke's Hall. This is a different kind of thinking. It's practical, spatial, three-dimensional. It's the kind of intelligence that doesn't get written about in books of romance, but is essential for survival. Historians often debate the cognitive differences between pre-literate societies. Some argue that without the written word to rely on, people in all cultures developed prodigious memories, holding vast amounts of information, genealogies, stories, maps of the landscape entirely in their heads. You, a product of a literate, sheltered world, are now being forced to reactivate this dormant, ancient part of your brain. You are, out of necessity, rebuilding your mind to fit your new reality. As dusk begins to settle, you make your way back to the cave, following your newly memorized path. You don't stumble this time. You move with a newfound, albeit clumsy, confidence. You arrive at the dark maw of the entrance just as the last light is fading. You still don't have fire. You are still hungry and cold. But you are no longer lost. You have taken the first step in taming the wilderness by mapping it, by imposing a grid of human understanding onto its chaos. You have drawn the borders of your small kingdom. The failure to create fire still stings, a raw reminder of your inadequacy. The raw roots sit in a small pile inside the cave entrance, a bland and unappetizing promise, but as you stare at them, a new, desperate idea begins to form, sparked by the memory of your fire-making attempt. During your frantic spinning of the sticks, you had created a small amount of dark, fine wood dust. You had also noticed that the point of contact on the wood had become warm to the touch. It wasn't fire, not even close. But it was heat. What if you didn't need a roaring flame? What if you just needed enough heat to change the food, to make it something other than a raw, gritty root? This is a moment of profound, albeit primitive, scientific thinking. You are not trying to replicate a known process. You are trying to achieve a result by a different, more accessible means. You find a flat, sun-warmed rock near the mouth of the cave. The afternoon sun has been beating down on it, and it holds a gentle, residual warmth. It's not hot, but it's a start. You take one of the roots and begin to rub it vigorously against the rock surface. The friction is your new tool. You rub back and forth, pressing down hard. It's another laborious, muscle-aching task, but it's different from the fire-making. After several minutes of relentless rubbing, you pause, panting. You touch the root. It's slightly warmer than it was. The rock beneath it is also warmer. A tiny, almost imperceptible change, but it's a change you caused. Encouraged, you continue. You work on one side of the root, then the other, your movements becoming more efficient. You are no longer a lady of leisure. You are no longer a lady of leisure, you are a machine, converting the motion of your aching arms into thermal energy. As you work, you notice that the abrasive surface of the rock is scraping away the outer, dirty layer of the root, revealing the pale, clean flesh underneath. You are not only heating it, you are cleaning it. The problem solved with one tedious action. You spend what feels like an hour on a single root. Your arms burn, your back is stiff, but you are driven by a singular, obsessive purpose. Finally, you stop. The root is not browned or softened in the way a roasted vegetable would be. But it is warm all the way through. It's no longer a cold, dead thing from the damp earth. It carries the warmth of your effort. You sit on the ground, leaning against the cliff face, and take a bite. The texture is still firm, but it's less dense than when it was raw. The taste is still earthy, but the warmth seems to have released a subtle, nutty sweetness that you hadn't tasted in the tiny, raw sliver you tried before. And most importantly, it's not gritty. You eat the entire root, chewing slowly, deliberately, savoring every mouthful. It's not a feast. It's not even a particularly good meal, but it is the most satisfying thing you have ever eaten in your entire life. Because you made this, you didn't just find it, you transformed it. You took a raw, unpalatable object from the earth and, using nothing but a rock and your own strength, you made it into food. This tiny, humble meal represents a monumental leap in your journey. It's a victory born not of luck, but of ingenuity and perseverance. The psychological boost is immense, far more nourishing than the meager calories the root provides. You were not given fire, so you found a different way to create heat. You have adapted. You have overcome. This concept of cooking without fire is something historians and anthropologists sometimes call pre-pyrotechnic food processing. While fire was a game changer for early humans, it's plausible that even before fire was mastered, people used other methods, sun-drying, fermentation, or simple friction and percussion to make food more digestible and palatable. The academic community continues to explore the timeline of these innovations, but the core idea remains human ingenuity finds a way. Your desperate, friction-heated root is a perfect, personal example of this. You've stumbled upon a foundational principle of technology. If you can't achieve your goal with the ideal tool, you invent a new technique with the tools you have. You look at the pile of remaining roots. It no longer seems like a symbol of your deprivation. It's a larder. It's potential. You have a reliable source of water, a mappable territory, and now a method for preparing food. These are the foundations of a life, however meager. As the sun sets, you retreat into the mouth of your cave. The deep, terrifying darkness still waits for you in the back, but tonight, you huddle closer to the entrance, the faint warmth of your cooked meal still lingering in your belly. The cold is still there. The fear is still a close companion, but for the first time, it is joined by a sliver of something else. A sense of accomplishment. A feeling fragile but real, that you might just be strong enough to see another dawn. The small victory of your friction-warmed meal gives you a fragile confidence. But the wilderness is a harsh teacher, and it is always ready with a new lesson. A few days into your new routine of fetching water, cooking roots, and exploring the edges of your territory, you trip. It's a clumsy, stupid accident. Your foot catches on an exposed root while you're scrambling down a small embankment, and you fall, landing hard on your side. You instinctively throw out a hand to break your fall, and your palm scrapes against a sharp-edged piece of granite hidden in the leaf litter. The pain is sharp and immediate. You sit up, cradling your hand, and see a ragged, 3-inch gash across the fleshy part of your palm. Blood, dark and shockingly red, wells up from the wound, dripping onto your dirty tunic. In your old life, an injury like this would have been a minor drama. A Lara would have been summoned, your hand would have been gently cleaned with rosewater, and a soft linen bandage would have been applied. A fuss would have been made. Here, there is no one to summon. There is only you, the pain, and the blood. Your first reaction is a wave of nausea. The sight of your own blood, the raw, ugly reality of the wound is deeply unsettling. But then a more practical and terrifying thought follows: infection. You know about infection. You've seen it. You remember a stable boy who got a deep cut on his leg from a pitchfork. The wound festered, his leg swelled to twice its normal size, and a dark line crept up toward his groin. The castle's physician, a man who smelled of vinegar and mumbled prayers, could do nothing. The boy was dead within a week, consumed by fever. Your small, seemingly insignificant cut is not just a wound, it's a potential death sentence. Panic begins to set in, but you force it down. You need to clean it. You stumble to the stream, your hand held stiffly at your side, and plunge it into the icy water. The cold is a shock, but it helps to numb the pain. You wash away the dirt and the blood, gritting your teeth as the water stings the raw flesh. Now what, you can't just leave it open to the air, to the dirt, to the flies that are already starting to buzz with interest. You need a bandage. You look at your coarse wool tunic. Tearing a strip off, it seems like the only option, but the fabric is thick, dirty, and scratchy. Wrapping your wound in filth seems like a terrible idea. Your mind races, sifting through fragments of half-remembered knowledge. Your tutor, the herbalist-minded one, had spoken of plants with healing properties, but which ones his lessons were abstract academic. You never thought you would need to apply them. You look around you, at the sea of green with new, desperate eyes. You are no longer looking for food, you are looking for medicine. You recall an image from one of his books, a plant with feathery leaves and clusters of small white flowers. Yarrow, he had called it. He said soldiers used it on the battlefield to stanch bleeding. You scan the forest floor, but you can't see anything that matches the picture in your memory. Then another memory surfaces, a kitchen remedy. A cook applying a poultice of moss to a burn on his arm. Moss, you look at the rocks and trees around you. They are covered in it, but there are so many different kinds. Which one is right? Is any of it right? Or is this just another folk tale that could make things worse? You find a patch of a particular moss that looks clean and bright green, almost like a miniature, self-contained lawn. It's called Saganum, though you don't know its name. You just know it feels different from the slimy film inside your cave. It's spongy and surprisingly absorbent. Hesitantly, you peel a section of it from the rock it's growing on. It comes away in a soft, springy pad. It looks clean. This is another gamble, just like the one you took with the root. You are operating on a sliver of a memory, a piece of second-hand information. But the alternative, doing nothing, seems far worse. You return to the stream and rinse the pad of moss carefully, squeezing it out. It holds a surprising amount of water, just like a sponge. This is a property that made it incredibly useful for centuries as a wound dressing. Historians note that Saganum moss was used for this purpose from the Iron Age right up through World War I. It's naturally absorbent and has mild antiseptic properties due to the presence of certain chemical compounds. It's one of nature's perfect bandages. You, of course, know none of the science. You are just following a desperate hunch. With your good hand, you gently press the damp, cool pad of moss over the gash on your palm. It feels soothing. Now you need to secure it. You look back at your tunic. Tearing it is still a bad idea, but what about its threads? You find a loose thread at the hem and carefully pull. It's not much, but it might be enough. You painstakingly wrap the thread around your hand in the moss pad, tying it off with a clumsy knot using your teeth and your good hand. It's a pathetic, fragile-looking bandage. A far cry from the clean linen of your past. But it's something. It's your own resourcefulness, your own attempt to fight back against the ever-present threat of death. You have addressed an medical emergency. You have become your own physician. The gash on your hand still throbs, a constant reminder of your vulnerability, but your makeshift bandage is a testament to your growing resilience. You are learning that survival isn't just about finding food and water, it's about mending what is broken. Starting with yourself. The injury to your hand, while a source of constant, throbbing worry, has an unexpected side effect. It forces you to be smarter. Simple tasks that required two hands, like rubbing your roots against a rock, are now impossible. You can no longer rely on brute force, you must rely on tools. Your first challenge is your food. You can't prepare your roots with your bandaged hand. You need a way to hold them steady, a way to scrape them clean without needing to grip them. Your gaze falls upon the scattered rocks at the base of the cliff. They are just rocks, but your mind, now rewired for survival, sees them differently. It sees shapes. It sees possibilities. You find a flattish stone about the size of your good hand. Then you search for another, smaller stone, but one with a sharp-looking edge. This is a process of selection, of seeing potential function in natural forms. It's the very first step in tool-making. You place a root on the larger stone, using it as a kind of small, primitive cutting board. You try to hold the root steady with the side of your injured hand, and with your good hand, you use the sharp edge of the smaller stone to scrape away the dirt. It's clumsy. The root rolls around. But it works, sort of. It's more effective than using your bare hands, and it keeps your worm out of the dirt. This small success emboldens you. The sharp stone is useful for scraping, but it's not sharp enough to cut. You need to be able to divide your roots into smaller, more manageable pieces. You need a knife. You look at the piece of granite that wounded you. It has a sharp edge. Could you make an edge like that intentionally? You pick up a piece of flint like rock you found near the stream. It's hard and has a glassy texture. You remember seeing the castle blacksmith shaping metal, striking it with a hammer to change its form. You take another, heavier, rounded stone to use as a hammer. You hold the flinty rock in your good hand and strike it near the edge with your hammer stone. The first strike does nothing but hurt your hand with the vibration. You try again, hitting it at a glancing angle. A small, sharp-edged flake of rock often falls to the ground. You stop and stare at it. It's a tiny, razor-sharp piece of stone. It's a blade. You created it. A jolt of pure, triumphant excitement shoots through you, so powerful it makes you feel giddy. This is not like finding a useful rock, this is manufacturing. You have imposed your will upon the raw material of the world and created something new. Something that did not exist before. You carefully pick up the stone flake. It's wickedly sharp. You test it on a leaf, and it slices through it with no effort. You test it on a piece of your tunic's thread, and it severs it instantly. This is a tool, a real tool. This process you've just stumbled upon is called knapping, and it's one of the oldest human technologies. For millions of years, our ancestors shaped stones in this way to create knives, scrapers, and spearheads. The study of these stone tools, lithic technology, is a cornerstone of archaeology. There's a persistent, and somewhat condescending, myth that this was a simple, brutish activity. But in reality, it's an incredibly complex skill, a kind of Stone Age physics. The napper needs to understand angles, force, and the internal structure of the rock. Historians and archaeologists who have tried to replicate it find it takes hundreds of hours of practice to become proficient. Your small, accidental success is just the first letter in a vast and complex alphabet of skill. With your new knife, the world changes. You can now easily scrape your roots clean. You can slice them into thin medallions that you can warm more quickly on your rock. You can cut the woody, inedible parts away. The tool amplifies your effort, making you more efficient, saving you time and energy. Your mind, now buzzing with possibilities, sees new uses for your technology. You need to improve your bandage. The wool thread is already starting to fray. You find a plant with long, tough, fibrous leaves. You use your new stone knife to strip them into thin, strong strips. You use these to bandage your hand over a fresh pad of moss. This new bandage is stronger and more secure. You have made a knife. You have made a knife. You have made cordage. In a single afternoon, you have climbed up several rungs on the ladder of human technology. You are no longer just a passive survivor, reacting to the world. You are an active agent, shaping it to your needs. You hold the small stone flake in your good palm, feeling its sharp edge. It is an ugly, humble thing. It is not made of silver or steel. But it is, at this moment, the most precious object you have ever owned. It is not a symbol of wealth or status. It is a symbol of your own intellect, your own ingenuity. Your new tools have given you a sense of agency, a feeling that you can impose some small measure of order on your chaotic world. But every evening, that feeling is eroded as you retreat into the cold, damp, and profoundly unwelcome pink cave. It is a shelter, but it is not a home. The darkness at the back of it remains a territory of fear, and the hard, uneven floor offers no comfort. You decide that your next project is not about finding things outside, but about improving your life inside. You are going to engage in your first act of interior design. The floor is the first and most pressing problem. It's a lumpy, rocky surface that makes sleep a nightly torment of shifting and turning to avoid a new sharp edge digging into your hip or shoulder. You can't flatten the rock, but you can cover it. You begin to gather materials. Your criteria are simple: anything soft. You start with large dry leaves, piling them up in the corner you've designated as your sleeping area. But the leaves are brittle, they crunch and break under your weight, quickly turning to dust. They are not enough. You remember the moss, your savior in the bandage incident. Not the spongy saganum, but other kinds you've noticed thicker, plus her varieties that grow in dense carpets on fallen logs and at the base of trees. You spend an entire afternoon carefully peeling up large sections of this moss. It's heavy work, and you transport it back to the cave an arm for less, your injured hand making the process slow and awkward. Inside the cave, you lay the moss pads over your bed of leaves. The effect is immediate. You have created a mattress, a lumpy, damp, and probably bug-filled mattress, but a mattress nonetheless. When you press your hand into it, it yields. It has softness. That night, for the first time, you sleep for several hours at a stretch. The small measure of physical comfort translates into a huge psychological relief. You are not just an animal seeking a den, you are a person creating a bed. Next, you address the dampness. The cave walls constantly weep a thin film of moisture, and the air is perpetually clammy. You can't stop the water, but maybe you can insulate yourself from it. You gather pine boughs, stripping the fragrant needles and spreading them over your moss bed. They add another layer of cushioning and, more importantly, their resinous scent helps to mask the cave's musty, earthy smell. For the first time, the air in your corner smells less like a tomb and more like a forest. But the cave is still oppressively dark and gloomy, even during the day. The light only penetrates a few feet past the entrance. You need to bring the light in. You can't make fire, but you can harness reflection. You find several pieces of a pale, quartz-like rock near the stream, rocks that have a natural, faint sparkle to them. You bring them back and place them strategically on ledges and in niches near the entrance, angled to catch the morning sun. It's a subtle effect, not a dramatic one. They don't illuminate the cave, but they do catch the light, creating small, glittering points that break up the oppressive gloom. They are a purely aesthetic improvement, a touch of decoration. It's a seemingly frivolous act in a world where every calorie of energy is precious. But it's not frivolous at all. It's an act of defiance. It's you insisting on a small measure of beauty in a brutal environment. Historians and archaeologists have found evidence of this kind of behavior even in the deepest past. Neanderthal caves have shown arrangements of stones and use of pigments that seem to have no practical purpose. The debate continues: was this primitive art a form of ritual, or something else entirely? Some argue it's a fundamental human need to organize one's space, to make a home out of a shelter, to feel a sense of belonging and control over one's immediate environment. By placing these glittering stones, you are engaging in this ancient, deeply human practice. You are personalizing your space. Your biggest project is the entrance. The opening is wide and exposed, offering little protection from the wind and rain, to say nothing of any creature that might wander by. You need a door or something like it. You gather fallen branches, dragging them one by one to the cave mouth. You begin to weave them together, creating a crude, lattice-like barrier. It's not solid, it's full of gaps. But it's a demarcation. It's a line between the outside world and your private space. It's a psychological boundary as much as a physical one. It makes the cave feel safer, more enclosed, more yours. After several days of this work, you step back and survey your accomplishments. You have a soft place to sleep, a floor less hostile with scent of pine in the air, a few glittering decorations, and a makeshift door. It is still a cold, damp cave. But it is now your cold, damp cave. You have not just been surviving in it, you have been living in it. You have taken a raw, hostile space and, with your own hands and ingenuity, you have begun to tame it. You have made a house out of a hole in the ground. Life has fallen into a rhythm, a cycle of tasks dictated by necessity. Check the moss on your hand. Fetch water, gather roots, improve your shelter. But there is one problem that is getting progressively worse: your clothes. The coarse wool tunic and leggings you were given are falling apart. The fabric, shoddily made to begin with, has been torn by thorns, abraded by rocks, and weakened by constant dampness. A large rip has opened up on one sleeve, and the hem of your tunic is a ragged fringe. Your clothes are failing you, and as the nights grow colder with the slow turn of the season, this is becoming a critical issue. In your former life, clothing was about status, beauty, and modesty. A new gown was a cause for excitement, a way to display your family's wealth at court. Now, clothing has been stripped down to its most essential function, a protective layer between your vulnerable skin and the harshness of the world. It is insulation. It is armor. You try to patch the holes. Using your sharp stone flake, You cut a piece of fabric from a less critical area, the long tail of the tunic, and try to plug a hole in the knee of your leggings. But how to attach it? You have no needle, no thread fine enough for sewing. You use your knife to punch small, crude holes in both pieces of fabric and try to lace them together with the stringy plant fibers you used for your bandage. The result is a clumsy, bulky mess. The patch is stiff and it chafes your skin. It's better than an open hole, but only just. It's a temporary solution to a long-term problem. You realize you can't keep patching your existing clothes forever. You will need to make new ones. The idea is so daunting it's almost laughable. Making cloth is a miraculous, multi-stage process involving shepherds, shearers, spinners, weavers, and dyers. It's a cornerstone of the entire medieval economy. To think you could replicate it here is absurd. But what are the alternatives? Your mind turns to the stories you've read. Tales of wild men and hermits clad in animal skins. The thought is both practical and repulsive. It would mean killing an animal, something you have no idea how to do. It would mean skinning it, cleaning the hide, a bloody, messy business you can't begin to fathom. For now, that option is beyond you, so you turn back to the world of plants. Are there other ways to make a fabric-like material? You think of the fibrous leaves you used for cordage. They are strong. Could you weave them together into a sheet? You try. You lay out a row of leaves and attempt to weave others through them, like making a basket. The result is stiff, brittle, and full of gaps. It might make a decent mat for the floor, but you could never wear it. It has no flexibility, no drape. This failure highlights a deep technological gap. The invention of weaving is one of the most important in human history, allowing for the creation of flexible, strong textiles. But before weaving, what did people do? Historians and archaeologists believe one of the earliest forms of fabric was not woven but felted. Felt is made by matting, compressing, and pressing fibers together. It's a process particularly suited to wool, whose fibers have microscopic scales that lock together under heat, moisture, and agitation. It's a much simpler technology than weaving, but still requires specific knowledge you don't possess. Frustrated, you sit patching another tear, your mind circling the problem. Your grand plans have been reduced to this mundane, frustrating task of mending. As you work, you look at the dress you arrived in, the velvets, a coat and wool kirtle, now a tattered, muddy heap in the corner of the cave. You had discarded it as a symbol of a dead life. But now, you see it differently. It is no longer a symbol, it is a resource. You pick it up. The velvet is ruined, stiff with dried mud. But the wool of the kirtle, though stained and torn, is of a much higher quality than your peasant tunic. It's more tightly woven, a finer fabric. And there is so much of it. Your former gown was voluminous, designed for elegance, with long, flowing sleeves and a full skirt. All that wasted fabric is now a treasure trove. You begin a process of careful deconstruction. Using your stone knife, you don't just hack at it, you saw at the seams, painstakingly separating the sleeves, the bodice, the skirt panels. It's a reversal of the tailor's art. You are unmaking your dress, turning it back into flat pieces of precious cloth. You take one of the large panels from the skirt and wrap it around your shoulders. It's a simple, shapeless cloak, but it's an extra layer. It's more warmth. You use another piece to wrap around your waist, an improvised apron that protects your tunic as you work. You cut a long, thin strip and use it as a belt, cinching your tunic to keep out drafts. You have not made new clothes, but you have augmented and improved the ones you have. You have repurposed the remnants of your past, stripping them of their old meaning and giving them a new, practical purpose. The rich burgundy wool, once a sign of your high birth, is now just a piece of effective insulation. The transformation is deeply symbolic. You are no longer defined by the clothes, you are defining them. You look at your reflection in a still pool of water by the stream. You see a strange patchwork figure, clad in layers of rough russet and fine burgundy, held together with plant fibers. You look like a scarecrow, a mad hermit. But you are warmer. You are better protected. You are better protected. You have taken the last ghost of the noblewoman you were and forced it to serve the survivor you are becoming. In the quiet solitude of your small kingdom, you have grown accustomed to being the only human presence. The forest is full of life, the chatter of birds, the rustling of small creatures in the undergrowth, the distant howl of wolves, but it is not human life. You have come to find a strange comfort in this, a sense of peace in the absolute privacy. That peace is shattered one afternoon. You are near the stream, carefully washing a new batch of roots, when a flicker of movement in the trees across the water catches your eye. It's not the quick, darting movement of a bird or a squirrel. It's slower, larger, more deliberate. You freeze, your body instantly rigid with alarm. Your heart, which has settled into a calmer rhythm these past weeks, begins to pound with its old, familiar terror. You crouch behind a large, mossy boulder, peering through a gap in the ferns. You watch, holding your breath. And then you see it again. A figure, walking slowly through the dense woods on the far side of the stream. It's too far to make out details, but it is unmistakably human. A person. A tidal wave of conflicting emotions crashes over you. Hope, is it a rescue party? Fear, is it one of Valerie's S-men, sent to check if you're dead? And a third, stranger emotion you didn't expect, resentment. This is your territory. Your stream. Your forest. The presence of another person feels like an invasion. A violation of the small, hard-won world you have built for yourself. The figure is moving parallel to the stream, not toward you. They don't appear to have seen you. They are just passing through. You stay hidden, your mind racing. Who could it be? A traveler, lost in the woods, a hunter, checking their traps, or something else? The medieval wilderness was not as empty as we often imagine. While vast tracts were uninhabited, the forests were often a place of refuge or work for a variety of people who lived on the margins of society. There were charcoal burners, living in isolated huts for weeks at a time, tending their smoky kilns. There were hermits, seeking religious solitude. And there were outlaws, people cast out from their villages for crimes, living by poaching and robbery. The identity of this stranger was a matter of life and death. A kind hermit might share food, a desperate outlaw might kill you for your pathetic collection of roots and your tattered cloak. You watch as the figure pauses, stooping to pick something up from the forest floor, before continuing on and eventually disappearing into the trees. The encounter lasts no more than a minute, but it leaves you shaken to your core. The illusion of your isolation is broken. For the rest of the day, you are on high alert. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves, sends a jolt of adrenaline through you. You abandon your work for the day and retreat to the relative safety of your cave, pulling the woven branch barrier more securely into place. The familiar space no longer feels like a sanctuary. It feels like a hiding place. That night, sleep eludes you. You lie on your moss bed, staring into the darkness, listening. Your mind obsessively replays the brief sighting. Was it a man or a woman, tall, or short, old or young? You have no answers. The figure was just a silhouette, a shadow, a question mark painted on the landscape of your life. The sighting forces you to reevaluate everything. Your little map of safes, owns and landmarks now has a huge, unknown variable in it. You had grown careless, moving about your territory with a certain confidence. Now, the confidence is gone, replaced by a tense, cautious fear. Before, your struggles were against nature, against hunger and cold. These were predictable enemies. You could learn their patterns. But a human being, a human, is unpredictable. They have motives, intentions, secrets. The academic debate about the peopled wilderness is a fascinating one. We tend to think of civilization and wilderness as two separate, opposing concepts. But in reality, they have always been intertwined. People have always moved through the wild spaces, leaving their mark. Your personal discovery of this fact is terrifying. You have been treating the forest like your private garden, and you've just been reminded that it is, in fact, a public space with other, unknown inhabitants. The next morning, you don't go to the stream at your usual time. You wait, hiding near the mouth of your cave, watching, listening. You have to change your patterns, become more unpredictable yourself. You have to assume you are being watched, even when you can't see anyone. The mysterious shadow in the woods has changed the very nature of your survival. The game is no longer just you against the elements. It's now a game of stealth and observation. You have a neighbor, and you know nothing about them. Are they a threat, a potential ally, or just another lonely soul as frightened of you as you are of them? You don't know. And this uncertainty is a new and profound kind of fear. The fear of the unknown stranger dominates your days. You move like a ghost through your own territory, your senses stretched to their limit. Every action is calculated. When you go for water, you no longer walk a direct path. You skirt the edges of clearings, using trees and boulders as cover, your eyes constantly scanning the woods around you. Your world has shrunk, your confidence shattered. Several days pass with no further sightings. The forest remains quiet, and you begin to wonder if you imagined it, if the solitude was playing tricks on your mind. But you don't let your guard down. The possibility is now planted in your head, and it has taken root. Then, one morning, you find something. Near the spot where you saw the figure, on your side of the stream, lies a dead rabbit. It's not a rabbit that has died of natural causes. It's been cleanly killed. Its neck is broken. It is, you realize with a jolt, caught in a snare. A simple loop of cordage, cleverly placed on a game trail you never even knew existed, has been tripped. And there, beside the rabbit, is a single, clear footprint in the mud. It's larger than yours. The footprint of a man. He is real, and he is a hunter. Your first instinct is to back away slowly, to leave it alone. This is his property. Taking it would be theft, and it would announce your presence. It would be an act of open confrontation. You retreat into the woods and watch the spot from a safe distance, your heart a frantic drum against your ribs. You wait for hours. The sun climbs high in the sky. Your stomach crumbles, a painful reminder of your bland, repetitive diet of roots. The rabbit lies there, a perfect, untouched source of protein, of fat, of desperately needed calories. It represents a level of sustenance you haven't experienced since you were cast out. As you wait, a new line of reasoning begins to form in your panicked mind. The hunter hasn't come to collect his prize. Why, maybe he has other snares, a long line of them to check. Maybe he only checks them every few days. If you leave the rabbit here, another predator, a fox, a hawk, will surely take it. The hunter will lose his catch anyway. A daring, reckless idea begins to form. What if you took it, but what if you paid for it? A trade. A silent, anonymous transaction. It's a huge risk. He would know someone else is here, but he would also know that this someone is not a simple thief. They are a person who understands the concept of exchange. It's a desperate gamble, but the gnawing hunger and the promise of that meat are too powerful to ignore. You make your decision. You creep out of your hiding place, your movements quick and furtive. You grab the rabbit. It's still warm. The feeling of its soft fur and lifeless weight in your hands is strange and unsettling. You've never touched a dead animal before. You quickly unfasten the snare from its neck, and then, with trembling hands, you place your own offering on the ground where the rabbit lay, 3 of your largest, cleanest, most perfect roots. It's a pathetic offering in comparison. A handful of vegetables for a whole animal. But it's all you have. It's a gesture, a message. I am not a threat. I am not a mindless scavenger. I am like you. I am a person. You scurry back to your cave, your heart pounding with the thrill and terror of your transgression. You have the rabbit, but what you've done is far more significant. You have initiated contact. Back in the relative safety of your shelter, you are faced with a new problem. You have a dead rabbit. You don't know how to skin it, how to butcher it. You use your sharpest stone flake, and the process is a gruesome, bloody, clumsy mess. You hack and saw, ruining the pelt, making a gory mockery of what a skilled hunter would do, but eventually, you manage to get the skin off and cut away some of the meat. You still don't have fire, but you have your friction heating technique. You slice the meat into the thinnest possible strips and spend the next hour rubbing them with a smooth stone against your hot rock in the sun. It's not cooking, not really, but the meat becomes warm, slightly seared on the outside. You eat it, huddled in your cave, feeling like the most primitive savage. But the taste, the rich, savory, irony taste of meat, is a revelation. It's a jolt of life, of strength, flooding your system. You have learned something profound. You have learned it from the stranger without ever seeing his face. By observing his snare, You have learned that it's possible to catch animals here. You have learned the location of a game trail. This is a form of silent, observational learning, a method of knowledge transfer that anthropologists believe was fundamental to early human societies. Knowledge wasn't always passed down through direct teaching, but through imitation and observation of others' successes and failures. The academic term for this is social learning, and you have just engaged in your first, terrifying lesson. The next day you approach the snare location with extreme caution. The roots are gone, and in their place, lying on the ground, is a single, perfectly crafted flint arrowhead. It's not a threat, it's a gift. I response, a continuation of the conversation. He has accepted your trade and offered you a tool in return, a piece of his technology far superior to your own clumsy stone flakes. You have made contact. You have a neighbor, and he is, for now, not an enemy. The flint arrowhead is a marvel. You hold it in your palm, running your thumb carefully over its sharp edges. It's symmetrical, elegant, and lethally practical. Compared to your crude, smashed stone flake, this is the work of a master craftsman. It's a message, and you understand it perfectly. This is how you make a proper tool. The arrowhead is a gift, but it's also a challenge. It's an invitation to elevate your own skills. More than that, it's a key to a new level of survival. With a tool this effective, you can move beyond being a passive gatherer and a lucky scavenger. You can become a provider. You can become a hunter. The idea is both thrilling and daunting. You've never willingly harmed a living creature in your life. The thought of taking a life, even for your own survival, feels like a monumental transgression. But the memory of the rich, life-giving taste of the rabbit meat is a powerful motivator. Hunger is a great eraser of scruples. You can't make a bow and arrow. That's a complex piece of engineering far beyond your current abilities. But the hunter's snare that was simple, a loop of cord. You can replicate that. You spend the next few days not foraging for roots but for knowledge. You return to the hunter's snare location. He has since reset it, and you leave it where, alone, and study it from a safe distance. You observe how the loop is propped up with a small forked twig. You see how it's placed on a path worn into the undergrowth by the repeated passage of small animals. You notice its position just behind a small log, forcing an animal to hop over and into the noose. But it's full of subtle wisdom. Now you must choose your own hunting ground. You can't place your traps near his. That would be an act of competition, a violation of the fragile, silent truce you have established. You must find your own territory. You begin to search your own mapped area with new eyes. You are no longer looking for plants, but for signs of animal life. You find what you're looking for not far from your cave, a faint trail leading from the dense woods to the stream. You see small droppings. You see tiny tracks in the mud. This is a path. This is a place of opportunity. Your next task is to make the tool, the snare itself. Your plant fiber cordage is strong, but is it strong enough? You spend an entire day gathering the toughest, longest fibers you can find and braiding them together, twisting them to create a cord thicker and more resilient than any you've made before. It's tedious, repetitive work, but your focus is absolute. Then you must set the trap. You find a pliable young sapling growing near the trail and bend it over, creating tension. This will be the spring that pulls the noose tight. You tie your cord to it from the loop and prop it open with a carefully balanced trigger of small sticks, just as you observed. It's a clumsy imitation of the hunter's elegant design. Your trigger is unstable. It takes you an hour of frustrating, finicky adjustments before it finally holds. You have set your first trap. Leaving it is one of the hardest things you've ever done. It feels like leaving a piece of your own hope out in the woods, vulnerable and uncertain. You have to force yourself to walk away, to not check it every 5 minutes. The next morning you approach the spot with a heart full of nervous anticipation. From a distance you can see that the sapling has been sprung. The trap has been triggered. You rush forward, and your heart sinks. The noose is empty. It has been triggered, but whatever was in it has escaped. Failure. You analyze the scene. The trigger is sprung, the noose is pulled tight, but there's nothing there. Perhaps the noose was too big, allowing the animal to pull its head out. Perhaps the cord was strong enough and it snapped. Perhaps the trigger was too slow. This is the reality of hunting that stories gloss over. It's not a single act of glorious success, it's a process of trial, error, and refinement. It's a science. That afternoon, you rebuild the trap. You make the loop smaller. You reinforce the trigger mechanism. You set it again. The next day, it is sprung again. And this time it is not empty. Caught in the noose is a creature about the size of a squirrel, a small, furry animal you don't know the name of. It is still. Your trap has worked. You stand over it, and the wave of triumph you expect is muted, replaced by a profound and somber feeling. You have done this. You have taken a life. There is no elation, only a grim sense of necessity. This small creature's life has been exchanged for your own. It is a heavy, sobering transaction. This transition from scavenger to active hunter is a pivotal moment in your story, just as it was in human history. The ability to hunt and kill systematically rather than just opportunistic changed everything. It provided a richer, more reliable source of food, which in turn fueled brain development and allowed for the growth of more complex societies. The academic consensus is that this shift was gradual, driven by technological innovation, better tools, and social learning passing on hunting techniques. You have just lived through a compressed, personal version of this grand historical shift. You have observed, imitated, failed, refined, and finally succeeded. You reverently collect your prize, reset the trap with practiced, now confident hands, and carry your catch back to the cave. You are no longer just a survivor buffeted by fortune. You are a provider. You are a predator. You have claimed a new, more powerful place in the food chain of this wilderness. The rhythm of your days has changed. It is no longer just a cycle of gathering, but also of hunting. Checking your small line of snares you built to maul. With increasing skill is now your first and most important morning ritual. Some days they are empty, a familiar sting of disappointment. Other days they yield a small prize, and a grim but profound sense of security settles over you. You have a reliable source of strength. But this new competence brings with it a new, unexpected challenge time. Your efficiency has created pockets of idleness in your day. You are no longer running from one desperate task to the next. There are quiet hours in the afternoon after your chores are done, and long silent evenings in the cave. And into this silence, the ghosts of your past begin to creep. You sit at the mouth of your cave, carefully sharpening a stick with your gifted arrowhead, and suddenly your hands are not your own. They are Anaras, your lady-in-waiting, as she deftly embroiders a silk banner. The memory is so vivid, so complete, that you can almost smell the lavender scent she always wore. You can hear the soft whisper of the silk thread passing through the fabric. You feel a pang of loss so sharp it takes your breath away. These moments come without warning. The taste of a particular wild berry might suddenly transport you to the castle's feast hall, recalling the sweet jams served with roasted fowl. The sight of the setting sun painting the clouds in shades of pink and gold brings back the memory of watching that same sunset from your chamber window, a world away. Your past is no longer a distant, walled-off memory. It is an active, living presence in your mind. And you begin to do something you haven't done before. You begin to talk to it. Huddled in the darkness of your cave, you have conversations with your father. You tell him about the cave, about the stream, about the silent hunter. You ask him for advice, and then you imagine his gruff, practical response. You try to explain your new life to him, a life he could never possibly comprehend. You argue with Valerie's. In the silence of the forest, you finally say all the things you were too shocked and terrified to say on that fateful night. You hurl insults at his phantom, you question his motives, you rage against the injustice of it all. It's a futile, one-sided debate, but it's a release. It's a way of processing the trauma that you've held, unspoken, inside you for so long. And you have long, gentle conversations with Alara. You miss her most of all, not just for the services she performed, but for her quiet, constant companionship. You tell her about your failures, your small triumphs. You describe the moss bed you made, and you can almost hear her gentle, approving laugh. This act of talking to absent people, of holding dialogues with ghosts, is a powerful psychological coping mechanism. Solitary confinement is known to induce hallucinations on dissociation, As the mind struggles to populate its sensory void, what you are doing is a more controlled version of this. You are externalizing your own thoughts, giving voice to your memories, your fears, and your hopes. Some historians and psychologists who study long-term isolation from sailors on silos in dungeons note that creating these internal companions is a common strategy to preserve sanity. It's a way to maintain a sense of social connection, even in its complete absence. The historical record is full of accounts from hermits and anchorites who described conversing with saints, demons, or angels. While they interpreted these experiences through a religious lens, a modern psychologist might see it as the brain's profound need for dialogue, for the back and forth of conversation that helps us structure our thoughts and affirm our own existence. The debate continues on whether these are purely internal psychological phenomena or if they hold a different kind of reality for the person experiencing them. For you, these conversations are intensely real. They are your only link to the person you used to be. The noblewoman who loved poetry and silk seems like a different person from the grim, competent survivor who can set a snare and skin a squirrel. How can both of these people be you? Your internal dialogues become a bridge between these two selves. You explain your new life to the ghost of your old self, and in doing so, you begin to integrate the two. You are not one or the other. You are both. You are the woman who appreciates the beauty of an illuminated manuscript, and you are the woman who appreciates the lethal elegance of a flint arrowhead. You are the woman who once swept over a sad poem, and you are the woman who feels a grim satisfaction at a successful hunt. The loneliness is still a vast, aching ocean, but in its depths, you are no longer entirely alone. You are accompanied by the phantoms of your past. They are your counsel, your confidants, your accusers, and your audience. By speaking with the dead, you are, paradoxically, learning how to be fully alive in your new world. The conversations with your past selves help you reconcile who you were with who you are becoming. But it's your relationship with the world outside your mind that undergoes the most profound transformation. You are no longer just living in the forest, you are beginning to live with it. You are learning its language. It starts with the weather. In the castle, where there was an inconvenience, rain meant the courtyard turned to mud and outdoor practice for the nights was cancelled. A hot day meant the great hall became stuffy. It was something to be passively endured. Here, the weather is a matter of life and death. It dictates your entire day. You learn to read the sky. You notice that a certain type of high, wispy cloud, like mare's tails, often precedes a change in the weather. You learn that a ring around the moon at night usually means rain or snow is coming. You learn to feel the shift in the wind, the change in air pressure that you can't name but can sense in your bones, signaling an approaching storm. When you see these signs, you spend a day securing your camp, gathering extra wood still just for scraping, not for burning, and making sure your food supplies are protected. You are no longer surprised by the rain, you are prepared for it. Then you learn the language of the animals. You begin to differentiate between bird calls. You learn that the sharp, scolding cry of a jay is not just noise, it's an alarm. It means a predator or you is moving through their territory. The birds have become your early warning system. You learn to listen to their silence too. A sudden hush falling over the woods is often more terrifying than any sound, a sure sign that a large predator, like a wolf or a lynx, is nearby. Your understanding of the ground deepens. You are no longer just looking for your own specific trails. You are seeing the network of paths that crisscross the entire forest. You can distinguish the delicate, cloven tracks of a deer from the paw prints of a fox. You find areas where the ground is torn up and know that wild boars have been rooting for food there. The forest floor is no longer just dirt and leaves, it's a page of stories written every day, telling you who has been here, where they were going, and what they were doing. This deep ecological knowledge, often called traditional ecological knowledge, or TEK by modern academics, is a system of understanding the natural world that is built through generations of direct, personal experience. It's a science, but it's not the formal, detached science of your old tutor. It's an intimate, holistic understanding of the interdependence of things. The health of the oak trees affects the acorn crop, which affects the number of squirrels and deer, which in turn affects your own hunting success. You're a part of this web, not separate from it. There's a famous, unlikely apocryphal story about how certain indigenous groups have dozens of words for snow, each describing a different texture, weight, and condition. While the linguistic details are often exaggerated, the core idea holds true. A culture deeply embedded in an environment develops a language to describe that environment with a nuance and precision that outsiders lack. You are now developing your own internal language. You don't have words for it, but you have concept. You know the difference between good rain for roots are gentle, soaking rain, and bad rain for shelter are hard, driving, windy rain. Your senses have been honed to a razor's edge. Your sight catches the faintest flicker of movement. Your hearing can distinguish the snap of a twig under a deer's hoof from one breaking under its own weight. And your sense of smell, once trained to appreciate fine perfumes, now tells you useful things. You can smell rain in the air long before it falls. You can smell a foxden on the wind. You can even, on a clear, cold night, sometimes smell the faint, distant scent of wood smoke that isn't yours. A reminder of the other human who shares this forest with you. You've never seen him again, but this olfactory clue is a strange, comforting confirmation that HE's still out there. One afternoon, you find a patch of mushrooms. They are beautiful, a vibrant orange, sprouting from a decaying log. A month ago, you would have seen them as just another potential poison, another unknown to be feared. But now you stop and observe. You notice that the squirrels have been eating them, their tiny teeth marks clearly visible on the caps. While observing animals is not a foolproof way to determine if a plant is safe for humans, our biologists are different. A point of constant debate among survival experts, it is a clue. It's a piece of data. You make a mental note, a new entry in your growing encyclopedia of the wilderness. You are no longer a frightened intruder, cowering in a cave. You have become a part of the landscape. You move through it not with the arrogance of a master, but with the quiet confidence of a resident. You have learned the rhythms, the patterns, the language of this place. You have not conquered the wilderness. You have, in a strange and profound way, been accepted by it. Life has settled into a state of sustainable hardship. You are no longer on the knife's edge of immediate starvation. You have food, water, and a shelter that is starting to feel like a home. The world has shrunk to the size of your territory, and your concerns have shrunk to match the stage of your snares, the weather, the integrity of your moss bed. The grand political drama that leads you here feels like a story about someone else. One day, after a heavy rain, you go down to the stream to check if the rising water has damaged the small pool where you collect the clearest water. The stream is running high and fast, a muddy brown torrent instead of its usual clear trickle. And there, caught in the branches of a low-hanging willow, is something that does not belong. It's a piece of wood, but it's not a natural branch or a piece of a fallen tree. It's a plank. A piece of worked, sawn lumber, grey and waterlogged, with a dark, rusted nail sticking out of one end. You wade into the cold, churning water and pull it free. It's surprisingly heavy. You stand on the bank, holding this piece of debris, and a feeling you haven't had in a long time washes over you, a sense of connection to the world beyond. This plank did not come from your forest. There are no sawmills here, no carpenters. It has come from somewhere upstream. From a place with people, a place with buildings, with tools made of iron. It has come from the world you left behind. You sit on the bank, turning the plank over and over in your hands. It's a message in a bottle, a random piece of flotsam that tells a story. Has a bridge collapsed somewhere, a building fallen into the river during the storm, or was it just a side you have no way of knowing? But its presence is a stark, physical reminder that the world outside has continued to exist, to build and to fall apart, while you have been living your small, timeless life in the woods. This ignites a new kind of curiosity in you, one that has lain dormant for months. What is happening out there? Is Valerie still secure in his power? Does anyone even remember you? Do they assume you are dead? The plank offers no answers, only questions. A few days later, you find something else. This time it's an object of a completely different nature. Lying in the mud near the stream bank is a small wooden doll. It's crudely carved, little more than a smooth piece of wood with a knob for a head, but someone has tied a scrap of blue cloth around it as a dress. The blue is a faded, common indigo dye. This is a child's toy. You pick it up, your heart clenching. A child. Upstream, there is not just a settlement but a family. A child was playing by the water and lost their doll. The image is so powerfully normal, so achingly domestic, that it almost brings you to tears. It speaks of a life that continues, oblivious to your own isolated struggle. These objects, what archaeologists call allocathons, materials, things found in a place where they did not originate, are incredibly important for understanding connections between different groups and places. For an archaeologist, finding a Roman coin in India is a key piece of evidence for long-distance trade routes. For you, finding this doll is evidence of a different kind. It's proof that just a few miles up this very stream lies a world that is both completely alien and deeply familiar. The desire to know, to see, becomes a low, persistent hum in the back of your mind. Should you follow the stream? Should you try to find this place? The thought is terrifying. To leave your small, known kingdom for the complete unknown would be an immense risk. Out there, you are not a competent survivor, you are a ragged, wild-looking outcast. You are a threat or a target. They might see you as a beggar, a thief, or worse, a runaway from justice, which of course you are. Your safety lies here, in your anonymity. And yet, the pull is undeniable. The doll represents everything you have lost, not the luxury and the silk, but the simple, human connection, the community, the presence of others, the sound of a child's laughter. You take the doll back to your cave. It's too precious to leave behind. You clean the mud off it and place it in a small niche in the rock wall, next to your glittering quartz stones. It becomes a part of your strange little collection of treasures, a gifted arrowhead, a few pretty rocks, and now a lost toy. It is a shrine to a world you can't decide if you want to rejoin or hide from forever. The stream, which has been your life source, has now become a question. It is a path leading from your world back to the world of men. You find yourself looking upstream more and more often, your gaze following the flow of the water, wondering where it came from. The world has opened up again, and you are no longer sure if your small, wild kingdom is a sanctuary or a prison. The doll sits in its niche, a silent daily provocation. It represents a choice you have been avoiding: to remain in the wild, where you have found a harsh but stable existence, or to risk returning to the world of men, a world that betrayed you. The question is no longer abstract. The stream is a tangible path, leading towards something real. The decision is made for you, as it so often is, by the actions of another. One morning you are checking your snares when you hear something that makes your blood run cold: the sound of a horse, and the jingle of a bridle. It's not the sound of a lone hunter, it's the sound of riders, and they are close. You melt back into the undergrowth, your body reacting with the practiced stealth of a wild animal. You climb a short way up a rocky outcrop that gives you a view of the forest below, your heart hammering against your ribs. Two riders emerge into a small clearing. They are not peasants or hunters. They are soldiers. They wear leather jerkins bearing a familiar crest, one you haven't seen in months, but which has burned into your memory: the snarling boar of your father's house. But they are not your father's men. Their captain, a man with a hard, scarred face, is someone you recognize: Sir Kaylan. He was one of Valerie's most loyal knights. They are your cousin's men. Why are they here? The question hangs in the air, thick with menace. Have they come to finish the job, to ensure you are truly gone? Panic calls at you, urging you to flee deeper into the woods, to disappear. But you stay, frozen, watching. The soldiers dismount. They don't look like a hunting party. They look weary, their horses lathered with sweat. One of them unrolls a parchment scroll. They are not looking for you. They seem to be checking a map, arguing about their location. They are lost. And then you hear their words carried on the clear morning air. The Duke's forces are pushing west, one of them says. If we don't rejoin Lord Valerie's at the river crossing by nightfall, we'll be cut off. The Duke, the other one, scoffs. You mean the old ghost? His loyalists are nothing but farmers with pitchforks. Those farmers took Oak Haven last week. Kaylan snaps, his voice sharp, and they have Sir Gideon leading them. He is no farmer. The words hit you like a physical blow. Your father. They are talking about your father. HES not dead. HES not imprisoned. HES fighting back. The story Valerie's told. The royal decree, the accusations it was all lie, the coup. Your father has raised an army of loyalists and is waging a war to reclaim his lands. Everything you thought you knew is turned upside down. You were not cast out by a king, you were cast out by a usurper. You are not a convicted criminal, you are the daughter of a duke at war. This changes everything. Your exile is no longer a personal tragedy, it is a piece of a larger political struggle. And your survival is no longer just about you. It's about your family, your name, your home. The soldiers, having figured out their route, mount up and ride off, their voices fading into the forest. They never knew how close they were to the person who could unravel their lord's entire scheme. You slide down from your rocky perch, your mind reeling. The choice you have been agonizing over for weeks, to stay or to go, is suddenly crystal clear, but the nature of the choice has changed. It's no longer about choosing between the wild and civilization. It's about choosing between hiding and fighting, between peace and justice. The life you have built here, the small kingdom you have carved out of the wilderness, suddenly feels like a coward's refuge. The safety you have found here is the safety of irrelevance. To stay here now would be to abandon your father and his fight. It would be to let Valerie's win. The decision settles in your heart with a heavy, cold certainty. You must go back. This moment is a classic turning point, what storytellers call the call to action, or in your case, a call to return. Many historical figures who spent time in exile from nobles to deposed monarchs faced a similar choice: to accept their fate or to risk everything for a chance to reclaim their former lives. The historical debate often centers on their motivations. Was it a thirst for power, a sense of duty, a desire for revenge, or a combination of all three for you? The motivation is a pure, simple flame: loyalty. Your father is fighting. You will fight with him. You return to your cave, but you see it with new eyes. It is no longer your home. It is a temporary camp, a place you are about to leave behind. You look at your moss bed, your collection of glittering stones, the little wooden doll. These are the artifacts of a life that is already over. You begin to prepare. You pack a small bundle: the gifted arrowhead, your sharpest stone flake, a strip of dried meat, and your water skin, which you will fill from the stream one last time. You dress in your most durable layers of clothing, the patchwork of russet wool and fine burgundy. You are a strange-looking figure, half peasant, half noble, all survivor. You are not the same person who was dragged from this cave months ago. That girl was weak, terrified, and ignorant. You are strong. You are competent. You can read the sky and the ground. You can find food and water. You can kill for your own survival. The wilderness did not break you. It forged you into something new. And now, you are going to take that new strength and bring it back to the world of men. You are going to war. The morning you leave is clear and cold. You stand at the mouth of the cave and take one last look at the shelter that has been your entire world. You touch the woven branch door, run your hand over the moss bed. You are not leaving a prison, but a home, however humble. A part of you will always belong to this place. With a deep breath, you turn your back on it and walk away without looking back. Your journey is not a desperate flight this time. It is a calculated trek. Your goal is the river crossing the soldiers mentioned, and your method is to follow the stream that has been your lifeline, but this time, you follow it upstream. The landscape that was once your entire universe now scrolls past you, becoming just one part of a much larger map. You move with a purpose and efficiency that the girl in the cart could never have imagined. You are not on a road, you are moving through the forest itself, using your knowledge of the land to your advantage. You stick to the densest parts of the woods, avoiding open clearings. You walk on soft earth and pine needles to muffle the sound of your footsteps. You are not a noblewoman traveling, you are a hunter on the move. The skills you honed for survival are now the skills of an infiltrator. You read the animal tracks to avoid startling a herd of deer that might give away your position. You listen to the bird calls for any sign that you are not alone. Your senses are your scouts, constantly feeding you information about the world around you. On the second day, hunger begins to gnaw at you. The dried meat you brought is long gone, but you are not helpless. You find a patch of the same roots you've been living on for months, and you eat them raw, not having the time or safety to prepare them. They are gritty and tasteless, but they are fuel. You are not searching for comfort, you are searching for sustenance. You find a stream feeding into your larger one, and, after checking for signs of contamination upstream, you refill your water skin. You are self-sufficient. This journey is a practical examination of everything you have learned. You are no longer just surviving, you are applying your survival skills to a specific, strategic objective. This is a cognitive leap. Many historians who study military history and strategy argue about the origins of what we call guerrilla warfare or asymmetrical combat. While often associated with modern conflicts, its principles are ancient. It's the strategy of the weaker force using knowledge of the terrain, stealth, and self-sufficiency to outmaneuver a larger, stronger but less adaptable opponent. Unknowingly, you are embodying these principles. You are a one-woman guerrilla army. Late in the afternoon of the third day, the character of the forest begins to change. The trees are more spread out. You see evidence of human activity, a stand of trees that has been selectively logged, the stumps old and weathered. Then, you smell it, wood smoke, but this is not the faint, clean scent of a lone hunter's fire. It's the thick, greasy smoke of a settlement. You slow your pace, your caution intensifying. You climb another rocky outcrop, a familiar tactic, and peer through the leaves. Below you, nestled in a bend of the river your stream has now grown into a proper river, is a small village. A handful of waffle and daub huts, a larger timber building that might be a reeve's hall, and a small, struggling field of crops. Smoke curls from the chimneys. You can see people moving about, a woman feeding chickens, to men mending a fence. It's the village the lost doll came from. It is a scene of profound, ordinary peace. Your first instinct is to go down to speak to them, to ask for news. But you stop yourself. You look at your own reflection in a puddle. Your hair is a matted, tangled mess. Your face is smudged with dirt. Your clothes are a bizarre, patched together collection of rags. You look like a wild thing, a creature of the forest. To them, you would be an object of fear and suspicion. You cannot risk it. Instead, you watch. You observe the village as you would observe a new species of animal. You note their routines, the paths they take to the river for water, the way the children play in the single muddy street. You are gathering intelligence. As dusk falls, you see a group of men return from the fields. They carry farming tools, but they also carry bows and spears, and one of them is wearing a leather armband with a crudely painted symbol, your father's snarling boar. These are not just farmers. They are his loyalists. This village is a part of his territory. You are behind friendly lines. A wave of relief so powerful it makes your knees weak washes over you. You are not alone anymore. But you still don't rush down. The girl you were would have. She would have run into their arms, announcing her name, expecting to be welcomed and cared for. The woman you are knows better. You are an unknown quantity. A sudden appearance could cause panic, could be mistaken for a trick by the enemy. You will not enter the village in the dark. You will not surprise them. You will approach them on your own terms, not as a desperate refugee, but as a deliberate actor. You retreat back into the woods and make a cold, hidden camp for the night. The journey is over. The next stage of your battle is about to begin. Dawn breaks, and you don't wait for the village to come to life. You move before the first villager has stirred from their hut. You walk out of the tree line and onto the dirt track that leads to the collection of buildings. You walk with a steady, deliberate pace, your back straight, your head held high. You are controlling the encounter. A dog starts barking, a frantic, high-pitched alarm. A door creaks open, and a man emerges, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He sees you, and he freezes. His expression is not one of welcome, but of pure, slack-jawed shock. A woman appears behind him, pulling her children back into the doorway. You are a spectacle. A wild woman who has walked out of the forest at dawn. You stop in the middle of the small muddy track, a good 30 paces from the nearest hut, and you wait. You don't shout or make any sudden moves. You let them come to you. Men begin to emerge from the other huts, drawn by the dog's frantic barking. They are armed with whatever they have on hand: a wood axe, a pitchfork, a hunting bow. They form a loose, wary circle around you, their faces a mixture of fear and hostile curiosity. They are trying to figure out what you are, an omen named Adwoman in Outlaw. The man who seems to be their leader, a grizzled older man with a long grey beard, steps forward. He holds a heavy spear, and he holds it with a practiced ease that tells you he's more than just a farmer. What are you? He asks, his voice a low growl. State your purpose here. You meet his gaze directly. Your voice, when you speak, is rough from disuse, a dry, croaking sound. I am looking for Sir Gideon, you say. The name of your father's most loyal commander, the man the soldiers mentioned. The man's eyes narrow with suspicion. Many people are looking for Sir Gideon. Not all of them are friends. Who is asking? This is the moment. You could declare your name, Lady Seraphina, daughter of the Duke. But the name belongs to a ghost, the girl in silk dresses. It doesn't fit the creature you have become, and they would never believe you. The contrast is too absurd. So you choose a different path. You use the knowledge you have, the authority you've earned. I am a survivor from the deep woods, you say, your voice growing stronger. I have information for him. Lord Valerie's patrols are lost and running low on supplies. They believe Oakhaven is still their territory. Their maps are out of date. They are vulnerable to ambush at the northern passes. You deliver this information calmly, factually. It's the intelligence you gathered from overhearing the soldiers. To these men, it's fresh, vital strategic information. Their expressions shift from hostile suspicion to grudging interest. This is not the rambling of a madwoman. This is the report of a scout. The leader, the man with the spear, studies you for a long moment. He is still wary, but he sees something in your eyes, the hardness. The focus, the look of someone who has seen things. This is a look he understands far better than he would understand a noble lady's plea. We will take you to him, he says finally, lowering his spear slightly. But you will be guarded. And if this is a trick, you will not live to see another dawn. This is the strange and complex reality of social status in a time of war. Your noble birth, which was once the source of all your power, is now a liability. The one you forged in the wilderness is what has granted you passage. You have not been saved by your name, but by your skills. Historians often debate the fluidity of social roles during periods of intense conflict. War has a way of stripping away titles and revealing a person's true utility. You are no longer valuable because of who your father is, but because of what you know. They escort you to the largest building, the Reeves Hall. Inside it is dark and smells of stale beer and unwashed men. This is a military outpost now, not a village hall. And there, sitting at a rough-hewn table, studying a map, is a man you recognize from your father's court. Sir Gideon. He is older, thinner, and his face is etched with weariness, but his eyes are still as sharp and intelligent as you remember. He looks up as you are brought in, his eyes widening in disbelief. He sees past the rags, the dirt, the wildness. He sees the shape of your face, the color of your eyes. He recognizes the goat. My lady, he whispers, his voice choked with astonishment. Lady Seraphina, by all the saints, we thought you were dead. And in that moment, as the hardened veterans and suspicious farmers around you stare in stunned silence, your two worlds collide. The survivor from the forest and the daughter of the Duke have finally become one person, right here in this smoky, crowded hall. Your journey through the wilderness is over, but your fight has just begun. The revelation of your identity sends a ripple of shock through the hall. The farmers who had moments ago viewed you as a dangerous vagrant now stare at their boots, their faces flushed with embarrassment. Sir Gideon rushes to your side, his weathered face a mask of concern and disbelief. He starts to ask a flood of questions. Where have you been? How did you survive? What horrors did you endure? But you hold up a hand, your bandaged one, to stop him. The time for personal stories will come later. Right now there is a war to be fought, and you have brought back more than just yourself from the wilderness. You have brought back a weapon knowledge. Sir Gideon, you say, your voice clear and steady, cutting through the murmurs in the hall. The past months do not matter. What matters is the present. Valerie thinks I am dead. He thinks this entire region is secure. He is arrogant, and his men are complacent. This is a weakness we can exploit. You walk to the table and look down at the map. It's a crude, hand-drawn thing, but you recognize the geography instantly. You see the river, the forests, the hills. But your understanding of this map is different from theirs. They see it as a soldier does a series of strategic points, roads, and fortifications. You see it as a survivor does a landscape of resources, of hidden paths, of places to hide and places to hunt. You point to a vast, dark green area on the map that is marked simply the Great Wood, the forest that was your home. Valerie's patrols avoid this forest. They believe it is empty, impassable. They are wrong. There are paths through it, game trails that a small, fast-moving group could use. You can move men through here without being seen. And emerge behind his lines at the northern pass. Gideon and the other men stare at you. You are not speaking like the Duke's daughter they might remember, a girl concerned with poetry and courtly manners. You are speaking like a hardened military strategist. And here you continue, your finger tracing the path of your stream. This tributary is not on your map. It runs high and fast after a storm. Any force trying to cross it will be slowed down. Their supply wagons bob down in the mud. It is a natural defense that you can use to channel his army into a bottleneck. You are translating your survival knowledge into military strategy. The things that kept you alive, the hidden rails, the behavior of the streams, the location of dense, impassable thickets are now tactical advantages. You are giving them a new way of seeing the battlefield. A few days later, a captured patrol from Valerie's army is brought in. They are arrogant and defiant, sneering at the farmers who captured them. So Gideon decides to let you speak with their leader, a young cocky knight who knew you at court. He is brought before you, and he laughs when he sees you. Lady Sorfina, he sneers. Look at what the woods have made of you. A filthy savage. You should have stayed dead. Lord Valeries will crush your father's little rebellion. And then, you let him talk. You listen patiently. You do not react with anger or fear. You simply watch him, your eyes commandant of England still. The gaze you are giving him is not the gaze of a frightened noblewoman. When he finally runs out of insults, you speak, your voice quiet but carrying immense weight. You are afraid, you say. Your patrol was lost. Your men are hungry. You have not been resupplied in a week. You believe there is a great host of my father's men hiding in every shadow. But you have seen no great host, have you? Only farmers. And yet, you are captured. The knight's sneer falters. You are not talking about armies and battles, you are talking about the reality of his situation, the fear and uncertainty that gnaws at a soldier in hostile territory. Your fear is the weapon we use against you, you continue. We are not in the castles you can besiege. We are the forest. We are the whisper of the wind that makes you jump at night. You cannot fight us, because you cannot find us. And while you are looking for an army, we are taking your patrols one by one. You have turned your weakness, the lack of a formal army, into a strength. You are using psychological warfare, a concept your enemies, with their traditional military mindset, cannot comprehend. This is the ultimate lesson the cave has taught you. The greatest power does not always come from swords and armor, but from resilience, adaptability, and an intimate understanding of the environment. The captured knight is taken away, his arrogance shattered, replaced by a dawning terror. So Gideon and his men look at you with a new kind of respect, bordering on awe. You did not raise your voice. You did not threaten or torture. You simply used the truth, sharpened to a fine point by your experience in the wild. This is a recurring theme in history, the innovator who uses unconventional tactics to overcome a superior force. From the Roman general Fabius Maximus, who used delaying tactics against Hannibal, to countless resistance leaders throughout history, the story is the same. The established power has rigid rules of engagement, and the challenger wins by refusing to play by them. The academic debate on this is rich. Is it genius, desperation, or simply a different cultural approach to conflict for you? It is not a theory. It is instinct. The cave was your tutor, and it taught you that the direct assault is often the stupidest path. You survive by being smarter, quieter, and more patient than your enemy. You have brought the wisdom of the wilderness to the battlefield. Your presence acts as a catalyst. The war, which had been a slow, grinding affair of sieges and skirmishes, shifts in character. Guided by your unique knowledge, Sir Gideon's forces become a phantom army. They use the hidden paths of the Great Wood to stage lightning-fast raids on Valerie's supply lines. melting back into the forest before any response can be mounted. They use your understanding of the landscape to lure patrols into ambushes in narrow ravines and muddy riverbeds. You do not fight. You do not carry a sword or ride into battle. Your weapon is your mind, your war room, the same smoky hole in the village. You spend your days poring over maps, interrogating captured scouts, and talking to local hunters and trappers, people your father's court would have ignored. You listen to their knowledge of the land, layering it onto your own, creating a rich, detailed mental tapestry of the entire region. You are the central intelligence hub of the rebellion. Your role fundamentally changes the structure of your father's army. It is no longer a top-down command of knights and nobles. It becomes a network, a collaboration between seasoned soldiers like Gideon and the common people who know the land. You have, without intending to, created a more egalitarian and effective fighting force. You have empowered the peasants, not by decree but by demonstrating the value of their knowledge. Valoris grows increasingly frustrated. His larger, better equipped army is being bled dry by an enemy they can't see. His men are demoralized, terrified of the witch of the woods and her ghost army. His arrogance, once his greatest strength, is now his fatal flaw. He cannot adapt his thinking. He continues to search for a conventional army to crush in a decisive battle, a battle that never comes. The tide of the war turns. Oakhaven is secured. More villages and towns, emboldened by the news of Valerie's fading campaign, declare their loyalty to your father. The Duke, your father, is able to advance from the west, and his army finally links up with Sir Gideon's forces. The reunion with your father is a strange and emotional moment. He sees you across a crowded military camp, and for a moment, he doesn't recognize the hard-faced young woman in patched-up clothes. When he finally does, he embraces you, his gruff, stoic demeanor crumbling, as he holds the daughter he thought he had lost forever. But as you talk, he, too, senses the profound change in you. You are not just his beloved child returned, you are a key architect of his victory. He listens with a mixture of pride and astonishment as Sir Gideon recounts your strategic contributions. He sees that the daughter he tried to shelter from the world has, in fact, learned more about its harsh realities than he ever did. The final confrontation with Valerie's is not a grand, pitched battle. It's an ignominious end. His army, starving and mutinous, deserts him. He is captured trying to flee in disguise, and he is brought before your father to face justice. You are there, standing beside your father's campaign throne, a simple wooden chair set up in the great hall of the castle you were once cast out from. Valerie's is dragged in, no longer sneering unconfident, but a pathetic, trembling figure. He sees you, and his eyes widen in terror and hatred. To him, you are the source of his downfall. The insignificant girl he tried to erase has returned and unmade him. Your father sentences him to be stripped of his lands and titles and imprisoned for life. As he is being dragged away, he looks at you one last time. You are not a lady, he spits, his voice full of venom. You are a monster, the forest spat out. You meet his gaze, and for the first time in a long time, you allow a small, cold smile to touch your lips. Yes, you say, your voice quiet but heard by everyone in the silent hall. You have won. Your family's honor is restored, your lands reclaimed. A new order is established. But it is not a return to the old ways. You cannot go back to being the girl who lived in a world of silk and whispers. You have been fundamentally and irrevocably changed. You work alongside your father as he rebuilds his dukedom. But your perspective is different now. When you discuss land grants, you think about the water sources and the quality of the soil for foraging. When you plan new roads, you think about the natural powers of the land and the impact on the forest. You establish a formal network of scouts and rangers, made up of the same hunters and trappers who were once on the fringes of society, recognizing their knowledge as a vital asset to the security of the duchy. This integration of wild knowledge into formal governance is a fascinating, though often overlooked, aspect of history. How did rulers in the past manage the vast, untamed portions of their realms? The standard answer is through military force and taxation. But a more nuanced view, which scholars are increasingly exploring, suggests a reliance on a deep, local knowledge base. You are formalizing this reliance. You are formalizing this reliance. You are building a state that respects the wisdom of the wild. because you know, better than anyone, that it holds the keys to survival. You are creating a new, more resilient kind of order. The castle is yours again. The corridors echo with the familiar sounds of courtly life. Servants bow as you pass. The scent of lavender and beeswax has replaced the smell of damp earth and pine. You have a new chamber, even grander than your old one, with tapestries depicting your father's victory, one of which even shows a stylized, heroic-looking woman in the woods pointing the way for the soldiers, a mythologized version of you. Elara is back. She survived, having been hidden by loyal servants in the village. Her return is a joy, but also a source of gentle friction. She fusses over you, trying to recreate the old routines, laying out silk gowns and preparing scented baths. She tries to brush the tangles out of your hair, which has grown long and wild, and she laments the calluses on your hands and the small, faded scars on your skin. You allow some of it. You wear the fine clothes, you attend the feasts. You play the part of the restored duke's daughter. But something is fundamentally different. The clothes feel like a costume. The endless courtly chatter feels trivial, meaningless. You find yourself gazing out the high windows, your eyes scanning the distant tree line of the great wood, feeling a pang of something you can only describe as homesickness. One afternoon, Elara brings you a silver platter with delicate little cakes dusted with sugar. You pick one up, but instead of eating it, you find yourself assessing its caloric value, thinking how impractical it would be as a food source on a long journey. You catch yourself doing this and a small, sad smile touches your lips. You can leave the wilderness, but the wilderness will never entirely leave you. You keep two objects from your time in the cave. You hide them in a small, locked wooden box beneath your bed. One is the smooth, sharp flint arrowhead, the silent hunter's gift. The other is a simple, grey stone, the one you used to painstakingly scrape your first roots clean. These are your true crown jewels. They are reminders of the person you became when you had nothing else. Sometimes late at night, when the castle is quiet, you take them out. You hold the cold, heavy stone in one hand and the sharp, practical arrowhead in the other. Silken stone. One represents the life you were born into, the other, the life you forged for yourself. You are a citizen of two worlds now, and you are fully at home in neither. Historians and chroniclers will later write about you. They will debate your story. Some will portray you as a pious saint protected by divine providence in the wilderness. Others will paint you as a cunning sorceress who learned dark arts from the forest to bewitch her enemies. The academic world of the future might argue about the psychological impact of your trauma, classifying you with terms like PTSD or feral child syndrome. They will all be trying to fit you into a neat category to explain you, but none of them will truly understand. They won't understand the profound silence of a forest at dawn, the taste of the first clean water after days of thirst, the grim satisfaction of a successful snare. They won't understand the complex, unspoken conversation you had with a hunter you never met. They won't understand that the cave was not just your prison, but also your crucible, the place that burned away everything that was non-essential and left behind a core of pure, unbreakable strength. One evening, you walk along the battlements of the castle, looking out over your father's lands. The fields are peaceful, the villages secure. You have everything you once lost and more. You have power, security, and the love of your family. You should be happy. And you are, in a way, but you are also forever changed. You look down at your hands. The calluses are starting to soften, but they are still there. A faint, white line marks the spot where you cut your palm. These are the marks of your true history, a history written not in ink on parchment, but on your own skin. Your father joins you on the battlement. He puts a heavy cloak over your shoulders. A cold night, he says, his voice full of gruff affection. You lean against the cold stone of the castle wall, the same kind of stone that formed your cave. You feel its solid, ancient presence. You are no longer the frightened girl who was cast out, nor are you entirely the wild creature who returned. You are something new, forged in the space between. You are the lady of the castle, but you are also the woman of the cave. You are silken stone, and you have finally learned how to hold them both. And so, the story ends. But for you, sleep is just beginning to weave its own gentle tale. Feel the weight of that heavy cloak your father placed on you, the comforting pressure sinking you deeper into the mattress. The cold stone of the battlement fades away, replaced by the soft warmth of your own bed. The distant sounds of the castle, the wind on the stone, all of it melts into the quiet, rhythmic hum of the fan in your room. You can let go now. Let go of the struggle, the fear, the relentless need to survive. There are no more snares to check, no more water to fetch. The silent hunter is at peace. The farmers are asleep in their beds, and even Valerie's is just a forgotten whisper in a dark cell. The great forest is quiet, breathing slowly under a blanket of stars. You can breathe with it. A long, slow breath in under gentle, soft breath out. Imagine that little cave no longer a place of fear but a quiet, empty space in the heart of the woods. Moss is already beginning to grow over the floor you cleared, reclaiming the space. A spider is spinning a new web in the entrance. Nature is tidying up, turning your story back into a secret. And you can rest. You brought the wisdom of the stone back to the world of silk. Now allow the silence to cradle you, to carry you away from the waking world, into the deep, quiet lands of your own dreams. The end of the article. Good night.